Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 24 of Fundraising BIDness Talk. I'm Patrick Cyber. I'm your host today and primary auctioneer at G Events LLC based in Beaverton, Oregon. We get together every Wednesday at noon and chat about what some of the current topics and things that are going on in the fundraising auction world. And so excited you joined us today. Want to make sure that you know appreciate it if you reach out and be sure to say hello and tell us where you're from in the comments or in the chat window, whichever platform you are on, and say hi. We'd love to hear from you. And then secondly, also always feel free to ask questions and leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them for you as we are going along. So, hey, a couple of things this week we want to talk about. We've kind of ended the spring fundraising auction season. It ended a couple of weeks ago for us, and now we are kind of enjoying the summer, right? And I wanted to visit a little bit because there's something that I hear from folks throughout the year, depending on how far away their events are. But usually when their events are several months away and we've set the date for the next year's event, I always wonder what they do from there. It seems like we really start meeting and having conversations maybe 5-6 months out from an event. And and then it gets always hectic and all those things. So, one of the things that kind of stuck in my mind this year in particular was that I learned a lot more about benefit auction software. And when I did, I realized that most benefit auction software programs are purchased on a subscription basis, on a year-round subscription basis. And as I dove into the softwares and what they could do, I became aware of the fact that I felt like a lot of our clients were kind of missing the boat, for lack of a better term, in not taking advantage of their year-round subscription. So I started thinking about it. How would I change that? I mean, what would I do differently? And as I learned about different software programs and things that were going on, I started thinking to myself, we ought to probably do a little quick show about that. So with that in mind, I threw together some thoughts and I created a sample website that is something that I think most organizations should be doing. I think that you should always have, unless you're just not going to do your event next year, is to have your event website up on a year-round basis. I think it is somewhere where your fans or your followers and supporters can come, learn about your event, maybe see some things from last year's event, and start getting ready for next year. I think that random conversations happen throughout the year, and people wonder, hey, when's we had such a good time at that fundraising gala. When is it next year? Is it always that same week? Is it when is it? And so it's obvious that you'd go to the event website to find that out, or the organization website to find that out. And when people are thinking about your organization and your event in particular, it makes sense to me to give them an opportunity to learn about your event. And also, more importantly, because we are in the fundraising business, an opportunity to support your organization. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with a little event that I created just for fun and for example for today. And as I go through it, I just want to draw attention to the different things that I put on there. This was done using Octria. That's as many of you have heard me say over the years, one of the softwares that I'm a huge fan of. I think they just do a wonderful job in supporting the nonprofit community, and I think they do a wonderful job in providing a product that really, really is flexible and powerful for our nonprofit organization. So I'm always, when people ask me, who would you recommend we use for our auction software platform? I always encourage Octria.com, just because I believe that, as an auctioneer, I didn't really care too much about which benefit auction software companies our clients used in the past. But over the last year, if anything, I've become very, very concerned and very focused in learning. And as I've learned, it's been very eye-opening to see what some of the different software platforms can do and how they can help the organizations win. And when I say win, I mean raise more money for their beneficiary, for their organization. So let's take a look at what we created here. I just gave it a simple name, the Fundraising Gala, to end all galas, right? Sounds perfect. And it's pretty basic here what I'm looking to do. To me, there's just a few factors that I want to draw attention to. And I wrote a little text here, just kind of for lack of a better term, a random text, but kind of draws home to the point. I'm going to read it in case you can't see it on your screen. It says, each year our favorite nonprofit organization hosts a magical fundraising gala to generate dollars that allow our staff and volunteers to provide supplies and services to the most underprivileged in our community. So kind of a mission statement. Why do we do this event each year? And then it goes on to say, it's always a great party. Just take a look at the pictures from last year. And so I put a carousel here of pictures because I think it's something that can draw some attention. I think people like a couple of things happen here. First of all, if you didn't go to the event and you missed it, or you just heard about it, and you go and there's a bunch of pictures rotating through, maybe I see somebody I recognize, maybe it draws me to want to go to the event. But more importantly, you look at all these pictures, people are having a good time. They're living it up, right? And so who doesn't want to live it up and have a good time? And so it just, I think it says something about your event. So then I said, it is never too early to start thinking about our next event. So mark your calendars, April 1, 2022, just a random date I put in there. And then I said, take a look below for information on showcasing your business as a sponsor or providing an item to be used in the auction. Of course, you can always make a financial gift to help us today. Those are the three things that I want to put in front of people, is that, become a sponsor, donate an item, right? One of the biggest challenges that our committees are seeing in this new environment is procurement, right? We were all taught that everybody suffered immensely during COVID, and that's absolutely true in many cases. But in many cases, there were organizations that flourished in COVID, right? But procurement has become really awkward for a lot of committees, and so I want to get into making procurement easier or more convenient than it has been in the past. And I think using your auction software is a great way to do that. So we'll roll into that here in a second. But first and foremost, I've shared, hey, it looks like it was a great party. Everybody's having a good time in the photos. It's never too early to start planning. I've told them the date for our next event. I didn't have to tell them the format. I didn't have to tell them where. None of that is relevant at this point, this far in advance. It's really about what is the date? Make sure that I'm in town. Make sure that I'm available to watch it on the virtual, whatever it is, right? The date is the most important thing when it comes to that communication. People are always looking for the date first. And then letting them know that they can support the event now. And how do they do that? Well, they can become a sponsor, or they can donate an auction item, or just make a cash donation is always appreciated also. So here we go. So we roll down our next section here on our website, and we said a big thank you to sponsors. Now, one of the things that I love about this concept of getting your website up and running in advance, right, early on, is that it's another way for you to tell your sponsors that we are doing our best to showcase your organization. We put your event, your logo, and your company information on our website as soon as last year was over, right? So it gives you that reason. I always feel like the best time to renew a sponsorship, in other words, to renew an organization for your sponsorship, is the day the event ends, right? The next morning. because people had a great time at your event the night before. You send them a thank you. Hey, we'd love to hold your position for next year's event, and keep everything the same or make some modification, whatever you're going to do. But ask for that now so that we can begin showcasing your organization today, is the way I look at it. So it gives you some incentive when you have this website up year round to reach out to those folks and say, hey, can you be involved again? And if they say yes, perfect. We start showcasing them right away. And so you can see on this website that I created, we already have a few that are already right back into the program. And then when people see other organizations supporting, they want to know, how do I do that? I like what they've done there. I like how they've showcased that company. My company ought to be there, or that's my competitor, so I need to be on there. Or I don't see a company that does what I do. Maybe this is a great opportunity for my company. So why don't we make it easy? And let's just put a button right here. Become a sponsor today. Okay. And so when somebody clicks that, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to take them to a page that starts off with showcase your company at the gala. And right here are all our sponsorships and their pricing and their benefits, right? So it's really straightforward and easy to do. Now, one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do if you're using this kind of a format is that what I like to do is I set an inventory for each of the packages. Now, sometimes, yes, there is a limit on how many of a certain sponsorship I can have. For example, traditionally, you can only have one title sponsor. So you can see that the quantity remaining right here is 1, right? But the package is all spelled out. Here's all the benefits of exactly what they're going to get. And that's, makes it simple, right? People know you don't have to worry about what was communicated, that type of stuff by a committee member. Here is what you will get, right? And if someone wants to buy it right away, they just click add to cart. I've set these up as what we call immediate purchase, which means that the person needs to check out to actually secure it. So for an organization, we get payment right away, right? And that's a big, powerful deal. Now, in this case, let's look at the second one here, technology sponsor. Now, our technology sponsor, $2,500. Here's all their benefits, but it says sold out. So what I did here was, as soon as I sold it, I replaced the standard graphic, which was just the name of the sponsorship. I replaced it with the logo of the company who purchased it. Now, there's some logic there, folks. There's a little bit of methodology at work here. And what I'm doing here is that when somebody comes to my sponsorship page and they scroll down, I love the fact that they see it sold out, right? That instead of just sold out seems a little bit more extreme, right? It seems a little bit more, how would I say it? I think it causes a little bit more energy and excitement. You want to be part of a sold out event. Just if it puts sold, okay, it's sold, I can't buy it now, but sold out, it's like, wow, there's some urgency. I need to think about what I can get. Anyhow, and the second part is that by putting the company logo here of the company who bought it, now all of a sudden I'm putting back the person who's scrolling through this page has a company they're looking to showcase. And when they see other companies are showcasing, it validates your event. It validates the sponsorship value. And it also says, it's kind of a boast to say, I want to be like that company, or our company's better than that company, or our company, they're a competitor, whatever it is, like I said on the homepage. Now is, when you put it right there, face front and center, folks look at it and say, yeah, I want to be a part of that also. Okay. And then we have others, other sponsorships right down here. Now, when you get to your smaller sponsorships, this $500 package right here, keep in mind, I probably really don't have a limit. I'd love to sell 50 of these if I could, right? Now, if it has tickets, maybe there's somewhat of a limit to it. But as a rule, there's not necessarily a set inventory, but I'm going to create one, okay? And I'm going to put it there because I think when people look at this and they're considering supporting your organization and your event, I think when they see that there's a quantity remaining, that implies that there's some urgency. once again, there's some motivating factor. I don't know how fast the last 9 will go. I want to get mine before they're sold out, right? Because I saw sold out up here. I didn't know how many of these they had, but it's sold out. So, the whole event might sell out. So I'm always going to encourage you to pick an inventory. And remember, you can always modify it, right? I mean, I can only have one technology sponsor conceivably, but I can have a lot of partners. I can have a lot of supporters. And these are just names I made up to make it simple, right? So want to make sure that, you name it whatever you want, but I think it's great to always put an inventory on there. Want to remind you, hey folks, as you're watching, if you have a question, I say something you don't understand, or maybe I didn't say it quite clear enough. Maybe you want to ask a question, maybe go a little deeper into something. Hey, feel free, drop a note in the comment box, and I'll be happy to answer it right here on the air. And if nothing more, say hi. Tell us where you're tuning in from. It's always great to see I really enjoyed it. I did a webinar with some folks on Friday, and I think there was 20 some odd states represented, and it was really kind of fun to watch and see people chiming in from all over the United States. So that was fun. So drop your say hello and tell us where you're coming from. All right. So let's roll on. So as we go in, you kind of get the sense of how this works with the sales, and different softwares are different, but I think this is a real handy way to do it. I just created a page, become a sponsor. I can go back to the home page. Now I put a button there, and part of the reason I put a button there is that as I'm looking at this page and I see thank you sponsors, if that initiates the thought, wow, I want to be like them, I want to make it really obvious how to do that. I don't want folks to have to scroll up and see, I wonder if there's a tab for that. I just think it's simple. I think when, I always like whatever's in my view here. If I see thank you sponsors, I look at those companies, it makes me want to become a sponsor. I want to know that button's right there. Now, maybe I don't want to become a sponsor, but I see these other organizations involved. Maybe I want to donate an auction item today, right? And so here's where I think it's incredibly powerful. You click on donate auction item, boom, takes you right to a page. And what happens here, folks, I'll just read this text once again. I think it might be a little small for you to see on a shared screen. We are always appreciative of our supporters who provide an item we can use in our auction. If you're in a position to provide an item or package, please complete our simple form, and a member of our committee will be in touch to discuss coordinating your donation. Thank you, right? Never can say thank you too many times. But this software in particular, I think, does a fabulous job, Octria, with putting a donate form that you can just, literally, I didn't create, all I had to do was plug and play their donate form. It wasn't, this was not complicated, folks. And it gives me all the information that I want to have. And it has, fields that are required and fields that are not required. It also gets all the information about the package. It also gets me the information about the donor of the package. And then it also gives me the opportunity to upload photos and any of that type of stuff, right? And what I love the best is, well, not necessarily the best, the next sequence of actions is that when somebody does make a donation through the form, one of whoever's designated as the person who is notified by the software, they will get an email and say, hey, you've received a solicited package. And so then you go into the system in the back door, and I can just show you that. You go back into the items. This is on the dashboard, right? And you can look right here, and it shows review solicited items. And so if I had somebody had filled that out, I would just go to reviewed solicited items. Now, once I accept that item. In other words, let's say they gave us a used chicken coop. Well, we don't want to put that in our auction, right? So we're gonna decline that very nicely and say, hey, thanks, but no thanks, right? But they gave us that vacation home in some beautiful, wonderful place where it's sun shining while it's raining and snowing in your neighborhood, right? We couldn't be more excited. We accept that package. Well, once we accept it, it automatically builds the record in the list of packages or items that we're going to sell, right? And it would automatically add it to the catalog if that was already set up and things of that nature. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, that's unbelievable. Well, I look at it and I say, no more Google sheets that we're trying to share with an entire committee. Nobody can remember, somebody screws up the sheet, sorts it wrong, does something wrong. Seems like a nightmare. This situation, people, whether it's the donor that goes in and fills out the form, or maybe it's a committee member, right? Nothing wrong with teaching your committee to fill out the form. If you've got a committee, I know many of my clients have committees that go out, and I call it beating the pavement, knock on doors, ask for donations from organizations, their local restaurants, their local fun activity centers, things of that nature. When they go out and they ask for those donations, and the donor says, "Yeah, I'm in. Count us in." We'll give a $50 gift card, and maybe they even hand them the $50 gift card right then. Who knows? But that volunteer, that committee member, comes back, gets on their computer, gets on their phone. You can do this on your phone if you wanted to, and types in, fills in the information. There's even a spot on here for solicitor, right? So here's a perfect example. If you've got a committee and one of your committee members went out and got that $50 gift certificate, they would put their own personal name here under solicitor, which is really handy. Okay. How many times do we have an item, we go to the next year and we want to sell it again, and we're like, how did we get that? Right? Well, if we filled out who the solicitor was, or who it came through, wouldn't that be wonderful that we would have all that information, right? And so it's absolutely fantastic. I just think it's a cool deal. I encourage folks all the time, get rid of that Google sheet. Maybe you want to use that Google sheet or that Excel spreadsheet to send out a letter and ask for donations. But here again, folks, when you send that solicitation letter out, now all of a sudden you're just trying to drive people to this website, right? Whether you're asking them for a donation for the auction or whether you're asking them to become a sponsor, it's all right there. So now you make that a simple and concise email, a simple or concise letter, right? With a link to your website, right to your auction website, and let them fill it up. And the best part about that, folks, is this website's 24/7. 24/7. So when your customer, when your donor, when your sponsor wants to do business, you are ready to do business. Okay. And I think in today's environment, that is incredibly powerful. So I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of using your auction software on a year-round basis. The last thing I'd show you here is that I'm going to drive home the message that make a donation window available, right? Maybe they come to your website. They think, wow, this was cool. This was great. I know what the date is next year. And I made a kind of an interesting statement here, right? I said, make a difference today. This event might be 6 months, might be 9 months out. Could be 364 days if you're really organized, right? But here's some encouragement. Make a difference today. We can put your cash donation to work today to improve our community. Thank you for your support. And they make a cash donation, pick a number, fill in their own custom amount, whatever works best for them, click donate. And now your nonprofit has that money right away, right? And so there's I don't know if the auction software companies had this in mind when they made them annual subscriptions, But I've got to tell you, I think there's a year-round value to definitely a year-round value to your auction software. And I'm going to encourage you, if you're not using it now on a year-round basis, that you should be. And I hope you will. I'm going to just give it a couple of seconds. If you got a question, I'm getting ready to wrap it up and cut this one right at about a half hour today. And but if you have a question, feel free, type it in that comment box. I would love to answer it if we can. And worst case scenario, just say hi, tell us where you're from. So folks, this is Fundraising BIDness Talk. Use that hashtag when you get a chance. If you like what you saw, you can always think about Fundraising BIDness Talk. I also want to direct you to the website. If you think GEventsLLC.com, if you think there's an opportunity for us you'd like to visit about your upcoming event, would like to have a free consultation. I'd love to hear about your event and answer any questions that you may have. And you can always reach out to us at GEventsLLC.com. There's actually a scheduling icon on there, and you can schedule a half hour or an hour conversation, whatever works best for you. And you can see my whole calendar, and we'd be happy to visit with you about your upcoming event. Right? So that's at GEventsLLC.com. Folks, I appreciate you joining us today. I want to remind you that Fundraising BIDness Talk is live every Wednesday at noon Pacific Standard or Pacific Daylight Time. It's always a good time to see it. And I want to remind you, it does not matter where you start the bidding. It is where you finish. And it's a great day. Looky there, we got a little comment. Our good friend Jill Marie Wiles, one of my favorite auctioneers of all time, international champion, model of inspiration in the community. Jill Marie, thanks so much for tuning in. It's great to know you're in the audience. Jill Marie and I get a chance to work together. She's been a great mentor to me in the business, and it's just it's an honor to have her in the audience today. So thank you for tuning in. Folks, look forward to seeing you next week on BIDness Talk. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. We're always available to help out and to answer your questions. Have a terrific day.